Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first ever live chat. We are going to be getting Meredith on the line in just 1 minute. Looks like she's here. Welcome, Meredith.
Hi.
We're so glad you're able to join us, everybody. And if you're not able to join us live, this will be replayed later. If you have to dip out early, we apologize for a little bit of delay. Just wanted to introduce Meredith. She'll be here next month for the Nace event, March 15th. We are flying her in from Texas to come talk about some really amazing life hacks. She is an event professional. I have a great little, I don't even know where it is now. Here we go. So I have a little bit of an introduction for her. She's the owner and lead event coordinator and a designer at Significant Events of Texas, based in Dallas. She coordinates social, corporate, and charitable events for over 40 clients each year, and as a regular speaker around the country. I know that some of our Nace members have already seen her at Nace National, and I think that's why we brought her in. I've heard so many amazing things, and she is the expert at many things, and I want to kind of send that over to her because she knows more about what you're the expert at it. So please go ahead and introduce yourself. Give us a little bit more information.
Sure. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really excited to come to Florida, especially because it's very cold and rainy today here in Dallas. So I'm excited to visit you guys. And to be speaking about this topic, which is about event efficiency. I call the topic event life hacks because it reminds me just sort of all those, things you see maybe on BuzzFeed or that come through your Facebook page about life hacks for your life, like little fun, stupid things you can do with stuff around your house that make your life more efficient and move so much easier. And it's a silly thing we usually see online, but I started thinking about just how that term applies to events themselves. I'm told a lot of times by my colleagues and by my clients that I work really efficiently and that I'm in my market at least, one of the better coordinators in terms of just making events run really lean, really smoothly, and very efficiently. So I developed this topic to kind of talk about different areas in which you could kind of tighten up your processes with your events, whether it's from on the office end of things, handling things via, how your email could become more efficient, how your communication prior to events, like with site inspections and with communicating between your different colleagues, how that can become more efficient. And then also executing events on site, not just as an event planner, but also for different vendors as well. And I also talk about throughout the presentation, a variety of technology hacks. So I call them technology hacks. So different software programs that really can help make our lives more efficient. I feel like nowadays we're always looking for ways to work not only faster, but also smarter. And we have so many different forms of communication that we have to answer to that I really try to present also a few different ways to make that a little bit more streamlined and to make that to a few different software tools that can help make things more efficient for us as just business professionals, no matter what industry that we're in.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that intro. So tell us what to expect when we attend on March 15th.
Sure. Well, I like to give a lot of different examples and just real world solutions of things that have worked in my various events. I've done about 200 events now over the last 9 years. So as I mentioned, there's the technology aspect that I talk about. I do try to talk about, I try to focus a lot, not only on in my own business, not only on the event production side of things and working into designing events, but also on just running a business really effectively. And I find that, and as I'm sure you guys find too, that there's a lot of people in any industry, but also in our industry, because I think we are an industry full of creatives, that sometimes the business end of things gets a little muddled and a little messy. So I talk about things like things you can do just in terms of your filing of your files on your computer, things you can do with your emails, with your colleagues and with clients to make things a lot more effective and to avoid a lot of excessive emailing and excessive, like if you're one of those people like me that just gets hundreds of emails a day, being able to very quickly find what you're looking for and some ways to make that process more efficient. I talk about different tricks for when you're doing site inspections and when you're building your timeline for your event. And that's not just from an event planner role. I know a lot of times we all deal with events where there is no planner involved and the DJ or the venue coordinator or the photographer ends up the one creating a timeline And I have just some strategies for making your timeline very efficient, and also for communicating that timeline to your colleagues to make sure that everyone's on the same page and that no one is missing anything. I have some techniques I developed. I mean, it's not, I don't know that it's anything revolutionary, but just some practices that I've done as far as creating a really good run of show for an event. Like for a corporate event, we do corporate events multiple times each year. And one of the things I find can be the messiest and most inefficient is the AV production. Not because the AV team is inefficient, but because it's not very clear between the client and the event planner and the AV team what's supposed to be happening at all times as far as what's on screen, what are they hearing, who's speaking, what slide are we looking at. So I've tried to really make that very efficient in my own events. And so I wanted to kind of share those, what I would consider best practices with everybody to help you avoid, any of those kind of really confusing AV situations. Things for event installation that can help your event installation run more smoothly, and also help it be a better working environment, and also an opportunity to gain more clientele while you're on an event installation. Then I have just a fun few little decor things that I talk about, just especially if you have a client that doesn't have a huge budget. And I do a lot of weddings, but it's not really geared towards weddings. Most of the time with weddings, we're doing a lot of floral, a lot of beautiful design. But a lot of times with my corporate event and my charitable events, we have to get creative because those clients don't want to allocate a lot of money or a lot of resources to things like centerpieces and little decor elements. So I have some tips to how you can kind of do what I would call decor hacks to make, the most of a small budget, but still look really effective. I talk about some things that I have in my toolbox, the actual physical toolbox that I bring on site that are really helpful to always have on hand, and some things you may not think of. And then just also I kind of end with different things that I think frustrate us as an industry, which my last slide is called Don't Be a Hack Hacks. So it's really about like things I think that frustrate a lot of us that we do as an industry, as vendors, as colleagues, that are inhibiting the efficiency of our events. So I try to kind of at a well-rounded perspective. It's about 45 minutes long, and to leave some opportunity for question and answer as well.
That was a great overview. Thanks so much for sharing. And it almost sounds like you'll be able to share some hacks that we can use in our personal life or personal / professional life, because that's everything. Like our life runs into our corporate life. And
yeah, totally.
So that's exciting. I've got a few questions here that's popping up. So someone asked, there are some who agree that the notion of multitasking, while certainly doable and oftentimes necessary in our industry, she finds that multitasking is distracting. Do you agree with the idea of multitasking?
I kind of have to multitask all the time. I feel like as in the role of a planner, there's a lot of multitasking that does go on. And I agree that multitasking can be at times very inefficient. And so I think more of the approach is there's a lot, it depends on each situation, but a lot of times that multitasking involves really being able to better delegate so that you can focus single-handedly on a task at a time. And I think a lot of things also come into just really being very proactive in your event planning so that you have the time that day when you have to multitask and you didn't really want to. You have at least been very efficient in your preparation so that it allows you to have the time to multitask when needed. I mean, I do feel like multitasking is part of our industry, and I feel that it's kind of to each his own. Some people are really great at multitasking and being able to accomplish many things at once. But I don't think that if you're more of a single task focused person, that sometimes you can get things done quicker that way. So I don't mean to dodge the issue, but I think that you really have to look within yourself at where your strengths are and find a way to make it all work, because obviously we're having to work on more than one thing at one time. And if you really are the person that can really just focus on one thing at a time and knock that out and knock it out effectively, then what do you need to do either with your staff or with your time management to be sure that you're able to manage the other things you need to as well?
Awesome. So it really just depends on your personality and your work type.
I think so too, and I think a lot of it just comes with so much in events. I think so much of it comes into the pre-preparation of really trying to do that, SWOT analysis of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. To really think through the event thoroughly. To do meetings with, to do multiple meetings if needed with your vendor team in order to think through all those things so that you don't have to be put in a situation in the event where there's 10 different things happening one time and things fall through the cracks because you're having to multitask, when really you probably could have narrowed down that list of things you needed to do that day. Not always, obviously. We know sometimes there's events where there's all kinds of stuff happening and we can't control it. But if there had been a better preparation in the back end, a lot of times it frees us up to not have to do so much multitasking.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So I have a question from Kara. She asked, what are some of the best practices to make sure we keep our pipeline full? And I think what she means by that is, are there ways to improve best practices to keep up with current business loads more efficiently so we can be more productive and work more, I guess, put more on a workload?
I think, and I do have a pretty heavy workload, and it seems to be something that surprises a lot of my colleagues that I've, been able to manage it. I think it varies per person, but for me, what has been most effective has been really staying on top of the communication. And that can take a long time for sure. Like, I really try all the time to respond to emails within 24, max 48 hours whenever I can. And I know that can be really difficult, but I think that when you let the communication become very delayed, a lot of things really, you just kind of get buried in it. A lot of things get lost in that time of not responding. So I feel like having that quick communication with my clients to just kind of stay on top of their issues, managing, I try to make sure I'm working on each of my clients' events a little bit at a time so that I'm not kind of just waiting. I have some vendors I work with that say, well, we can only work on the events right now, and the events, in 2 months we'll get to when we get to those. I get that, I do, but at the same time, then you have these clients for the next 2 months that are really frustrated that they feel like they're being put on the back burner. So I try to make sure, in order to maintain sort of a large workload, that I'm always working on one thing at a time with each of my clients. Granted, when I have like a corporate event that gives me a 6-week turnaround or something, I'm having to work on tons of things at one time. But I feel like it keeps the clients happy if they feel like you're working towards something, even if it's a small thing, that you're always giving them a little bit of attention, keeps them from freaking out about not hearing from you, keeps you feeling like you're always at least working towards the goal of completing the event. So I find that at least constant communication, even if it's, smaller, shorter email issues or quick phone calls, tends to help with the workload. And of course, delegating. I'm very big on, when I get very frustrated when I hear vendors say, well, I'm just so busy. I don't have, we're just so busy. I'm sorry, it takes me 2 weeks to respond to an email because we were just so busy. Awesome. Hire more people to help you then. I mean, truly, if you're that busy and you can't respond to an email or a phone call within a few days, hopefully within a day, you really need to look at, are you delegating enough? Are there assistants that can help you with this? And you know what? If you're not at a place where you feel people can help you with your business assisting, is there any way you could free up your personal life a little bit? I know it's very difficult to trust people with business management and to train people in your business, but it's not very hard to train someone to clean your house or do your laundry or run errands for you. And a lot of times we feel like we don't have the money for a business assistant, because a lot of times we don't, especially if it's a full-time salary with benefits. But it usually doesn't cost that much money to help our personal life be freed up a little bit more with relatively easy tasks that there are a variety of people out there that could help with, so that you can focus more on the things on your business that really only you can execute. So one of my biggest annoyances is people just saying they're just so busy that they just can't communicate and keep in touch. And I just feel like you have to come up with a solution for that if you want to manage a busy workload.
That is some excellent advice that I can personally take home, and I really appreciate that. I think one of the other questions was asking about saying that another question was saying they try to go to the gym, but they're just so busy with event stuff. How do I carve time out of that busy day to make time for the gym, for example? I think that I don't know if there's a specific answer that you have besides what you've already given. That was a really great answer. But I don't know if you have a specific, personal, how do you manage that personal life with your event life?
Well, it is very hard. I mean, I have 2 small children, and I've had 2 small children the entire time I've had this business. I went full-time with my business 2 months before my first child of 2 was born, and my kids are now 5 and 7. So I fully understand. I've been like a full-time mom and a full-time business owner all this time. And it is super hard. I always say, like, for me, the gym has been great because I can take my kids to the kids club and they can get free babysitting for an hour. But I will say one thing that I've definitely learned and learned it the hard way is that you do have to make that personal time for yourself. I too wish there were more than 24 hours a day. I too don't sleep as much as I should. But it is important, like truly, if you are not even able to carve out a few times a week for the gym, a few times a week for some personal relaxation, not enough time for sleeping, it really is time to evaluate whether you are capable of taking on this workload. Because what's going to end up happening is, and again, speaking from experience, you're going to experience major burnout. You know, your personal relationships are going to suffer, your marriage is going to suffer, your, you know, relationships with your kids are going to suffer. So it's so cliche to say you have to make the time, because I know that is the hardest thing. But truly, if your workload is so heavy that you can't carve out even the most minimal amount of time, it probably is time to start saying no to taking on so many clients. I know that's very hard. I had a year in 2012 where we did 55 events. I have other coordinators, but I personally did like 47 of those events, and it was terrible. I mean, it was, you know, a great business here, but it was overwhelming because I took on way too much. But I was glad that that happened. And I think that I really do respect those people that have that sort of hell year when they're in the first few years of business and they take on way too many clients, but they do it and they, you know, try their best to excel with all of them. But then you really need to take a step back and say, what am I really comfortable with? What's going to keep me happy? I don't know that any of us in this industry have a great work-life balance, but at least like a manageable, keep me sane work-life balance. So I had to really scale back and say, okay, I don't want to do 2 days in a row of events anymore. I can't, even if I lose money. And truly what ended up happening too, and another thing I will say too, is if you're having that much business where you're really like, you know, you're completely inundated, you should really consider raising your prices, because obviously you're worth the services. The year after my very tough year that I did the 55 events was the first year where I did fewer events by about 15 events and made more money, because I got smarter about what I was charging, because obviously the demand was there. And I started to believe that I was worth those higher fees. So that's another strategy too. It's scary because you're afraid to, you know, raise the prices. What if the business goes away? It doesn't have to be a huge jump. It can be gradual. But I think that's necessary to get you to a place where you feel like I can do this business and still have a life. Because it's important. In the end, we have to survive this life, you know? So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it sounds like you're coming from an event background and you're able to give a lot of personal advice that will also help professionally, both if you're working for someone else, or it sounds like if you're working for yourself. I'm really excited to hear you speak next month. I'm much more of an auditory and visual learner, so it's great to read your bio and read what it's about, but it's so much better to hear it and see it coming from you and your excitement and your passion about this. And I'm really looking forward to it. We do have to wrap up, but I do want to say it's March 15th that you'll be here. It's for the Nace event, and please RSVP and buy your tickets. We don't want to sell out, and so make sure that you get your tickets soon. Is there any other closing words that you would like to say?
No, I'm just very honored to be coming to speak, and I'm thankful, especially for the people that saw me speak at the Nace National Convention. I really love speaking in the last couple years because it's a great opportunity for me also to learn from you guys. So I welcome questions. I love to hear about challenges you face. Every single city, every market is different. So I always look forward to the networking and just getting to know about particular challenges that you guys have faced. A lot of my topics that I've developed speaking, because I have about 6 topics, have been just really listening to the various chapters. And because I don't do a lot of destination events, so I'm kind of here in my, it's not that it's a small bubble of Dallas. We have a big industry here, but I like to hear about the challenges you guys face. So I definitely welcome any questions, we only have so much time, but any personal anecdotes about efficiency tips you have, because this is coming from my experience, but we all can learn from each other. So I really do value that, and really look forward to meeting you guys and having a great just discussion about how we can all improve ourselves.
Wonderful. It looks like we have a few more viewers live, and I just want to remind you that after we're done with the broadcast, you can push play and watch the entire thing. She had some really great tips at the beginning and all the way through, some really great personal anecdotes, as well as what to expect on March 15th. Thank you again, Meredith, so much for coming on. We can't wait to meet you and chat with you in March.
Okay, thanks so much. I look forward to it.
All right, see you soon.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.